Hey, so, this video was actually uploaded in 2019. If anything's weird, that's why. Also, I'm still proud of it. I wanted to re-edit it, and I also just am working on the all numbers video and want it out as soon as we hit 20,000 subscribers. I'm trying my best. It's a big one, I'll tell you that much. Regardless, another thing that's going on is that I will be live on Twitch when this goes live. Yes, that's right. If you're watching this during any part in the day that you're seeing this video, go check out my Twitch. Go check out my Discord. Both are in the links below. Go and watch them, because I've got a lot figured out. If y'all are talking about Gafar, I'm gonna be having some Gafar, the anime tournament, gonna be showing some other stuff, and a lot of my new Twitch emotes actually got approved. Yay! So, a lot of things have changed, a lot of things look better. If you checked out the streams and they weren't your thing, I'd recommend checking them out again. We've changed quite a bit. In either case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I say anything that's weird or Master Rule 4E, now you know why. So don't comment it. Or you can comment it and help me in the algorithm. But don't think that you're like saying something. Oh yeah, 2019 Jada. You're a dummy. Like, I won't care. I won't care. So here's the top 10 most situational cards in the anime. I've got a few other videos like this, and if you like these top 10s that I've been re-uploading, please let me know. They're just kind of filler to make sure that I have time to make everything, especially since numbers is taking the life out of me as a sickness, but it's also numbers. All right, I'll get to the video. You can go. Action cards were a fun idea, if made to be dumb in execution. It really just boiled down to running at full speed, more than likely slow playing in the process, and trying to get a specific card that you may want that turn. If you don't get it, just keep running. There may be hope for you somewhere in whatever virtual reality hellscape you found yourself in. Keep in mind that many of these cards are meant to be really easy to activate, from dealing some damage to making a monster gain a small amount of stats, nothing too crazy. Then we have action card Mad Hurricane. When have you ever thought to yourself, I would love to shuffle everything on my side of the field back into the deck for no inherent benefit? The card is absolutely god-awful, and while you can just activate it whenever you want online, imagine running a half-mile at full speed only to see this garbage appear in your hand. They're a rigged lottery, action duels are, and this is the opposite of a jackpot. Circumstantial not in getting its effect off, but ever wanting this specific card to be the specific card that you sweat and pant and waste your own body away trying to get. And people told me exercise was going to be fun and healthy. Not that it would essentially give me a note that reminds me of how a 1,000-year storm came across my side of the country and destroyed familial houses by and large. They printed Hurricane Harvey as a card, and trust me, it blows!
Please laugh.
I've talked about this card on my channel, namely in my most viewed real video on the channel, Dynasty of the Useless Alchemy Beasts. Yesterday I said to get hyped for the Dynasty of the Useless Hydra Drives video, and that will be coming in the next few days depending on how much I can edit for a video cracking up to be insanely long, maybe like 45 minutes? Yikes. Just wanted to let y'all know what would be going on there. In the case of this card, Black Process Negledo, it's one that seems to not understand how hard alchemy beasts are going to brick damn near every single game they're played. You have to have no cards in your hand, and then banish every alchemy beast on the field to draw 2 cards for each. It's exceptionally powerful, sure, but that's what all these cards say before being thrown headfirst onto this list. Sure, if you can get it off, it works beautifully, but when are you going to just not draw a single alchemy beast, draw the kettle, and proceed to use the other 3 to 4 cards in your hand to summon alchemy beast to go crazy plus? Once in a shadow moon, a blue moon, that's when. This is a piece of support that works really well in theory, but in practice it dies to the deck doing what it does best. Not functioning in any way, shape, or form. On literally any other archetype, this is just insanely busted to an incredible degree. But here, in a deck filled with monsters that can't be normal summoned or set, there are no escapes from this travesty of a deck. Number 8 needs no introduction. Audit's Revolution Dragon is a monster shown off before on a previous list, and was nothing more than a Deus Ex Machina for Yuya to use in a bloody spin-off manga, and is impossible to bring out without proper setup. Audit's Revolution Dragon is the definition of a big boss effect held back by needing to style. You get to pay half your life points to shuffle all other cards on the field and in the graveyards into the deck, and has attack and defense equal to the opponent's life points. Basically just meaning attack, win, don't get battle faded. Downside is you need to sacrifice the OG, as in the actual version, not a spin-off, not the Supreme King versions, of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon to summon it. I repeat, it cannot be normal summoned or set like Saphylon could to bypass Infinite Light. You saw this card as recently as yesterday's video, and it's still insane to me that it exists. Link 3/3 dragons, and only then can you bust it out. Not much to say that I haven't said before, so if you're in the dark, go on ahead and watch my top 10 most situational cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime video. It's a great video anyway, and it basically fills the slot of everyone asking why a certain card isn't on my best lists. Well, except for one, but we like to forget about him for how often he's brought up. Perfect, we're finally at the first card on this list that was played exclusively by Yusei Fudo. Everyone's favorite protagonist with no character that people seem to say I overanalyze or simply don't understand because I haven't seen enough of the show. And, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. The card design is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of theory crafting, most of the plays will go over a typical duelist's head. There's also Yusei's optimistic outlook, which is deftly woven into his characterization. His personal philosophy draws heavily from Rex Goodwin's beliefs, for instance. The fans understand this stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of these jokes, to realize they're not just funny, they say something deep about life. As a consequence, people who dislike Yusei truly are idiots. Of course they wouldn't appreciate, for instance, the humor in Stardust Dragon's existential catchphrase, "I am literally the only good card in this whack-ass deck," which itself is a cryptic reference to Banish.Deck's TCG epic Grenmaju Daiza. I'm smirking right now, just imagining one of those addle-pated simpletons scratching their heads in confusion as Kazuki Takahashi's genius wit unfolds itself on their television screens. What fools, how I pity them. And yes, by the way, I do have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tattoo. And no, you cannot see it. It's for the ladies' eyes only. And even then they have to demonstrate that they're within 5 IQ points of my own, preferably lower beforehand. Nothing personal, kid. Well, Stay Force is certainly one of those cards. If Majestic Star would leave the field, I'm saying this because that's the only time he used this thing, pay 1k life points, and it doesn't. How does this help you? There are cards better than this in every deck that would want it, like Neos for example. Why pay that many life points over multiple turns if you could just have a field spell do it for you? Or just play better cards in a deck? Even if it didn't have to be compared to Neos of all things, why would you want to actually keep a minion like this on the board? Just don't use the terrible card in the first place. It's like training wheels on a dump truck heading into a volcano. You'll get where you're going eventually, and that place is no fun for you. Have you ever had a moment when a dude stole your cards, and then you decided, rather than calling the cops, that you would use a highly situational trap to get them back? If so, your name is Yuya, and you probably run cards such as Empty Fishing. Empty Fishing is a normal trap with the following effect. When you would take battle damage, target 2 cards on the field whose effects are negated, halve that damage and add those targets to your hand. Send them to the graveyard during your next end phase. To set the bar for how situational this card really is, it has had 2 appearances in Arc 5, and only one of those where Yuya activated it. The one-time use was in Episode 4, when Silvio yoinked Stargazer and Time Gazer from Yuya for his own Pendulum Summon, and to let Reiji see them. It was the 2 scales being negated that allowed Yuya to yoink them back into his hand and make the win. The other time, it was just in Yuya's hand in a duel with Gong. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's gonna work wonders against Super Heavy Samurais, Yuya. Really good tech card. You really had no time to change your deck in between those duels, right? Ha! Hey look, it's another Issei card! It's almost like he had the most BS cards that never worked in any context aside from the ones shown in the anime. Isn't that an interesting thought? Hardship is a trap card with the following effect. Equip this card to a monster you control. If you would take damage by an opponent's monster effect, you can reduce the attack and defense of the equipped monster to 0. You take no damage from that monster's effect, and you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to destroy the equipped monster, then destroy all equipped cards on the field and send them to the graveyard. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, a card like this would never fly in real life except for the Chads that use this as a Trick Star counter. Only time it was even used was against Aporia to block the effect damage of Mechanical, and for a funny moment when Aporia uses Infinite Feast and say, "I'm not joking here, eat this!" Sorry Aporia, I'm not eating this damage. I am not consuming any such thing. And also, if you're talking about eating something else, I mean, I'd assume you're packing, you're like 10 feet tall. Aporia's huge. Like, dude is built like a Dorito. Have you seen this dude? Alright, we're done with the terrible and awfully circumstantial Yusei trap cards. Right after this one, of course! How could I forget about High and Low? I mean, it's one of the few cards in the game that not only gambles, and seems to have absolutely no reason to exist other than for a final epic duel moment, I guess. High and Low comes in with more lows than highs, considering what it does. Basically, when a monster you control is targeted for an attack, you can mill the top card of your deck to the graveyard. If you milled a monster, then your monster gains that monster's attack. The effect can be repeated up to 3 times, but if your monster gets higher attack than the opponent's monster, then your monster goes bye-bye. Jazz it up. This card comes to us in the final duel of 5Ds with Yusei and Jack, and well, it's Shooting Star Dragon versus Red Nova. Yusei uses all 3 to make Shooting Star become 6k, exactly matching Red Nova, so it forces a crash. That's all it does. You can only reduce the damage, or you can crash with this card. Thankfully, it only counts if the attack goes beyond its own effect, so you can technically use Honest if the monster attacked was light. But in general, 3 mills that add attack and by itself cannot ensure the survival of the target is a pretty hard one to justify. Oh, but JCD, you need graveyard setup, you want a mill. Play Needlebug Nest. It's just better. There you go, bud. From Yusei to someone completely different, considering I could literally fill this list with entirely Yusei cards that are terrible and circumstantial. I'm sure I'll make a list for him in every protagonist deck anyhow. We have Reserve Cyclone. Reserve Cyclone states that when your opponent tributes a monster on their field that you own, you get to MST them. So first of all, there are like 30 other better ways to kill spells and trap cards in the game. Let's get that part out of the way. Mystical Space Typhoon, Twin Twisters, Heavy Storm Duster, Typhoon, Dicefoon, all much, much better than this card. How does this even work? Snatch Steal into a Monarch? Stormforth doesn't even work here, as the opponent has to steal the monster, they have to control it, but you have to own it, and then they need to tribute it. They can't just tribute your monster that you own. This would still be terrible in the wake of Monarchs running the format, but how the card actually works is even less viable. Are you so afraid of Gradles in the year of our Lord 2019 that you think this is a good side deck option for them? How many of you had to look up this card to see if I even put a real card on the screen? Yeah, I know Gradles have a bunch of weird support cards and no one even understands them, but honestly, you should remember this because psych, it's fake! Ha! No one cares about these things! And when they're the only deck to use this card against, you know that is the very dictionary definition of circumstantial. Ever wanted to use a situational card only used by a one-of character in GX under the situation of both players reaching a specific life point value and then changes the game into tennis? Deuce is a continuous spell that is, I mean, quite frankly, it's just kind of incredible in just how insane it is. It essentially changes the rules of the duel to mimic a round of tennis, if both players are at 1,000 life points each. Life points are now irrelevant, and the first duelist to inflict damage twice without the opponent inflicting any in between is declared the winner, and only one monster may attack per battle phase. So it's basically, you know, Deuce in tennis, how you have to get 2 in a row, and if your opponent gets one, it gets reset to Deuce. You know, advantage and all that. It's so cool. I like tennis. How does Jaden win this? He diffuses Rampart Blaster into Burstinatrix and Clayman, and then uses Feather Shot to let Avion attack 3 times. So 1 swing into the equipped spell protection, 2nd swing to take out the monster, 3rd for the direct attack that sends the one-off character running for the hills crying. No, really, that's exactly what happens. If you haven't caught up on, like, old GX episodes before, like, the plot kicks in, and it's just slice-of-life funny stuff, you get crazy decks. I mean, even when the plot comes in, what do you get? Alchemy Beasts? GX is fun, I love GX. From one GX character into a group of them, may I introduce you to the Light Brigade? 4 duelists known as Blaze, Frost, Thunder, and T-Bone, none of which matter, were all duelists who had decks based on Mobius, Thestalos, Zaborg, and Granmarg, and were assassins who Sarina sent to face Jaden and friends. In the end of their mini-arc of episodes, T-Bone takes on Jaden after his comrades are beat, and uses the will of his allies to try and beat Mr. Protagonist. And the card he uses for this, that would be a normal spell card called Shadow Moon. And good lord, what is this? Shadow Moon reads as such: you send 4 level 5 or higher monsters with different attributes from the hand or field to the graveyard to activate Blue Moon from hand, deck, or graveyard, and then special summon a Demiurge Ema, Demiurge Ema from deck or graveyard. Using the 4 Monarchs, T-Bone then got the 3300 attack beater and Blue Moon, the field spell that can only be activated through Shadow Moon, and is a face-up back row pop on both sides of the field and spawns a weak token to both sides. They are treated as continuous spells and cannot be tributed for a tribute summon. If that sounds complicated, yes it is. These tokens then give an 800 attack power buff to Demiurge, and what am I trying to explain here? All you really need to know is that this is a horrid card, given you need to run the 4 monsters in your hand or on the field if you're crazy enough to actually use it. And they have to be different attributes. It's just the Hydra Drive thing all over again. Don't do it. Maybe if you open Shadow Moon and the 4 materials, but in that situation you lose your hand and give the opponent a free token to use in a Link Summon. Maybe if Demi had Piercing, it would be cool, but otherwise, just a Bloated Beat Stick and nothing more. Just leave this plane of existence, you mishmashed monarch mess.